Cool. All right, so lots of stuff to catch up on, I think. Welcome back, Jacques. Good to see you. So we had the Lagos first Bitcoin conference that went really well. I think I pre-recorded my presentation in VR, and they played that, and I was kind of waiting till 12:30, nearly 1 in the morning to get on to answer questions, but I think they were behind schedule. So the whole thing was recorded and they put it out there. So we'll see but they're really, really appreciative of everything. So it's good. Here's Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Good morning. Hi, guys. How you going?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not in Agnes Waters. I'm back in central Brisbane, and wishing I was still in Agnes Waters. So,
From Agnes Water, Dan?
Sorry?
Are you from Agnes Water?
No, I was holidaying up there. That's how I met Gordon. So I was there last week on a family holiday, which we do every year. So yes.
Nice.
Yes.
We just kicked off our meeting, Dan. So just a quick ring around. Maybe everyone can just introduce themselves quickly to you.
Yeah. Good idea. Oh, and just so you know, this is getting recorded and it's going to go on YouTube. I hope that's all right with you.
Yep. All good.
Pure open source. We do this project, so we're all on record.
Yeah. So we just put all our meetings up on YouTube for nobody to watch. I'm Karin. I think we've chatted online a fair few times, but so I've started up the School of Bitcoin a number of months ago, and it's a pretty cool project. Basically, a decentralized autonomous education system that we're building out, and we're looking to build it specifically on stacks. And there's a whole sort of learning network that we want to use the Lightning Network for to actually fund student projects or learner projects, as we call them. So basically, there's no students, no teachers, just learners, because we're all learners sort of together. And whatever problem students identify or learners identify, they can build a project on that, and we can potentially fund that with BTC on the Lightning Network. So that's me. I don't know if someone else wants to jump in and introduce themselves.
I'll go. I'll introduce myself. So, hi there. I'm from the Gold Coast, or I'm sitting on the Gold Coast at the moment. But I've got a background in government and tertiary. As I write. I'm an educational consultant, and I have done a lot of presentations in the past with regards to education and pedagogy. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Jacques. I'm from the States. So I've got a background in construction management, and then I've done some work in entrepreneurship. So just doing some web development and design, and through that process, I've slowly started to develop a system that projects can use to deploy open source ecosystems. So trying to use that here with the School of Bitcoin.
Nice.
Awesome. So Jacques has done much. You've done most of our work in GitHub. That's correct.
Yeah.
So all the code that's been put into GitHub, Jacques has been responsible for that.
Yeah, got it. So, are you have you got a bit of a background as a developer there, Jacques? Or
development just enough to get like a hacky developer, I'll take
sure.
things together, but yeah, more on the design aspect of it, product design.
Got it.
So you know me, Dan, and a lecturer's here with me.
Yeah, nice.
and a lecturer.
I've lived in Agnes Water since 2016. I'm a professional accountant, and in practice, I've dealt a lot with creative and innovative and social enterprise industries. So I bring some of that experience to help structure things, and I want to help accountants and small businesses get into Web3 and blockchain.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. So without getting off the agenda, Dan, you specialize in
Yeah, so sorry, just to introduce myself and the reason I've kind of crashed your weekly meeting, just briefly. So yeah, when I caught up with Gordon last week and we were chatting, and I mentioned I work for Red Hat, obviously a major open source software provider, probably the largest and the longest in terms of playing in that enterprise open source space. Yeah, and look, Gordon talked a little bit about some of the projects. This one in particular was really exciting. So I basically said, look, I'll come along and have a bit of a listen. We have a number of open source leaders in our business who, have set up kind of 20, 30 different open source projects and products and offerings and communities. So I was going to go back to them and just kind of share a little bit about what you're trying to achieve here and see if they've got any tips and advice to just, help you get through to the next phase of where you want to take the business. Yeah, other than that, I've been in IT sales for about 20 years, mainly with kind of large global vendors. I've done some consulting as well. And, like most people, I'm a Web3 fanboy, so keen to see if I can help in any way. Yeah, and that's pretty much the extent of my interest in involvement at this stage.
Very cool. Oh, thanks very much. That's really
Let Karin get into it.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in. So there's a fair bit to cover. So just talk about the conference from earlier in the week. The first Lagos African conference. It's really cool. So we'll get to see that online. I got an email from a group from the Commonwealth Bank. So Jacques, Commonwealth Bank is like probably the biggest bank in Australia. And believe it or not, they're putting on a Bitcoin conference. I was like, what? So they get me to come speak at that. So they're kind of sending emails back and forth saying, how do I not say that the CommBank's like no good? It's part of my presentation. But we're sort of brainstorming and I came up with an idea. There's a thing here, you wouldn't know this, Jacques, but Dan, you probably do. Remember the Dolomite program from the Commonwealth Bank?
Yeah, I am old enough to remember the Dolomite program, so yes.
I was thinking, why don't we sort of rebrand that as SatoshiMite? So I bought SatoshiMite.com. So basically what it was, Jacques, was like the Commonwealth Bank would go around to schools and they gave you like a piggy bank sort of thing with like these characters on it and kind of opened up a bank account. So they just forced their way into schools and like opened up bank account. So they got in trouble for that recently, I think, and it's sort of been shut down. I was thinking, why don't we like use that as a jump off point and rebrand it as like SatoshiMite? So actual savings as opposed to, saving in fiat for whatever reason. So I thought maybe that might be an angle I could use for the conference. So that might be something interesting. We got the Dework up and running. So last week, I don't know if you had a chance to play around with Dework at all, but basically that's up and running. So basically you can populate it with but we had a bit of a back and forth. So if you watched the video from last week, actually, did we record it? I don't know if we did. I don't think we did. I think we forgot. But yeah, basically, if we did, it's up there anyway. Basically, yeah, to get in and populate with jobs, it's pretty straightforward once you're up and running. So we might even get everyone on today to do that. And the other thing was Karin's update. So if you go to the website, actually, I'll show the screen. Is that coming up okay?
Yeah.
So learn a voice. So Karin had the idea to do basically like just like thinking exercises for learners and putting a provocation maybe like once a month or so. So I've just put that up on a type form, and she had a whole bunch of them, but I think this is probably the coolest one to sort of jump off with because it's not financial orientated specifically. But what does being independent mean to you? Is being independent and doing what you choose to do to achieve your goals important to you? What stops you or slows you down in reaching your goals? So thinking like 100 words or less, put it out to the community, and then I did put 1 million sats, and then I realized, hang on, that's not a thing anymore. That's way too much money. So 10,000 sats for a prize for that. So that we get some learners actually submitting for that. And if you guys have some learners coming through Digital Playhouse, that might be a good thing to sort of jump off with. But I thought that was really cool. And Karen's got a bunch of provocations that we can do. Sort of, I was thinking like monthly basis or something like that.
Where do they go?
Yeah, I put it into one of the Discords for the Digital Playhouse fashion group, and I'll see if any of them take up the 10,000 sats challenge.
Oh,
I'll just leave it there and see if they take it up.
Who should we share it with?
Any learners that want to know? Anyone can do it.
It's open.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, anybody for sure. That was that. The other thing was sort of talking about last week and briefly during the week was meetups. So and I know Jill, you contacted a few meetups regarding like Bitcoin meetups specifically, and they're kind of like all fallen off since like the lockdown period. Even the ones in Melbourne. So like I signed up to one. There's one coming up this Thursday actually, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll go along to that. And it's like just an online meeting, like it's not a real meetup. And then kind of looked and it's like, oh, I thought it was like a weekly thing. Like it's gone here as well.
I was going to say, Karin, there's actually there's quite a few happening in Brisbane in April. So the major one there, there is a major group which I actually signed up to last night, and they have about 100 people coming to an NFT focused session in a week and a half. And then there's another one that's actually being recorded by ABC Four Corners, where a gentleman's talking about a major hack and stuff. That one's on in 2 weeks. And then there's a Sunshine Coast meetup with about 100 people in a week and a half as well. So these are all just on the meetup platform, so that they do seem to be picking up momentum again after Easter.
Yeah, and I think it does seem that a lot of the groups are sort of doing stuff around hacks or specialist events for, to get right into it, not just the average get together and talk, a bit of Bitcoin there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan, there's a few here on Eventbrite. Are they the kind of things that you're talking about? Metaverse 101?
This was actually on the meetup site itself.
Oh, okay.
Yep. But yeah, to Gordon's point, these are not kind of purely Bitcoin 101 educational sessions. They're, as you said, more specialized in terms of the broader crypto ecosystem. So yeah, if in terms of Bitcoin, pure Bitcoin meetups, there doesn't seem to be a lot.
No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I'm in Melbourne, and there used to be like a Bitcoin Melbourne meetup like once a week, if not twice a week, at like the Bitcoin Center here, and I kind of like stopped going after a while. So I just assumed it was all still happening, but it looks like not so much. I think, yeah, so my thinking around that anyway was, why don't we sort of hijack that and do like Bitcoin Australia meetups? And I've been looking for venues down the peninsula here, so I'm probably about an hour or so from the city. There's a lot of spaces along the peninsula here in Victoria that are kind of not being used much, and I thought there's not much of a Bitcoin presence here, so it might be the spot to kick something off. But in doing that, like branding like a Bitcoin Australia thing, creating like a monthly event that's like between spaces, like a hybrid event, so we can do it in VR like we did with our presentation, do it over Zoom and do it in person, and have like a rotation of speakers and presenters about Bitcoin specifically, and that could feed into the Stacks project as well. So I don't know, what do you guys think about doing something like that?
Yeah, I'm keen to expand the community up in the whole of regional Queensland here.
I like the idea of coordinating it, like a monthly thing. We do it at once. We've got cameras and screens here, so we can, even though we're in a remote location, we're set up to be able to have a class join a class or a group join a group. So that would be nice.
It's Thursday night. We do advanced crypto, and we'd like to be expanded between, but like outside of Agnes, you know.
Yeah.
Into regional Queensland, but get people starting to join in and starting to participate, or get their own gigs going in their own cities, you know.
Yeah.
And it certainly works well. So I've been part of that for a few weeks. I dropped into Agnes Waters, and it works really well, Gordon.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Jill.
Yeah, but you know, equally, I think we've chatted about me actually maybe with Sharon, because I dropped in with a friend to what Gordon was running, and it was excellent. But maybe replicating that here on the Gold Coast and being a hub here on the Gold Coast as well, to sort of give that sort of, you know, geographical sort of disparity with regards to the hubs. Yeah, go for it. You'll grow your community pretty quickly. But I think that networking between maybe what we're doing for the overarching, you know, the School of Bitcoin could be a good way to go.
Sure, make it more interesting because you've got a bunch of different things going on in different ecosystems.
I think so.
Awesome.
So
I like that idea.
Prices for Meetup, it's for a pro, it's $21 a month. I don't know if this is US or Australian, and for a standard, it's $11.54 for some reason. Like, I think one, what does it say? Limited events, 3 groups. I don't know what a group is, but we can, for the cheaper one, you get 3 groups. So maybe we could start with that, and then if we need the pro one later on, we could do that. But yeah, so should we do that? And I think that would, like, if we give ourselves a date, set it up. I mean, I still need to find a venue, but if we do it between even just 2 spaces, or Jill, if you find a space as well, we do it between 3, and I'll find
I will. I've already got a few ideas, but it is a matter of just finding a space, right?
Yeah, pretty much, and an internet connection. I suppose that's decent as well. That's the other thing. All right, well, let's.
It was probably that question how we're going to build out Stacks Australia too. Is that whether that's if it's going to be called Bitcoin Australia, whether it's we'll get a bit of controversy in there. There were some things in the Bitcoin Unleashed conference about the issues that the Stacks community are having with the Bitcoiners, if you want to call it. But they had some good comments about how to deal with that.
Okay. Yeah.
So I won't go into that now. So they asked the leaders, you know, what we're getting pushback on this and this, and how to deal with it. Yeah,
right. Well, that kind of brings me to my other point. And just with Stacks, it's been pretty hard to get in contact with Lewis. I think he's been busy from the sounds of it. But I was thinking, should we kind of like, I'll bring up this board actually. Just in terms of the setup of this and the School of Bitcoin being a project maybe coming out of this or something, should we focus on the Stacks Australia group for the time being, get this stuff off the ground? I mean, build out a website and Dework and all the stuff that we've kind of done for the School of Bitcoin for Stacks specifically, and get this rolling so we can get, you know, some income, I suppose, to actually spin up the meetups and all that sort of thing, and then apply for a separate grant for the School of Bitcoin specifically. Just a thought, but I thought, wow.
Yeah, I think that's the way we've got to go, because you've got to, either you're going to incubate programs out of School of Bitcoin to grow a Stacks ecosystem, or which means you've got to go through the School of Bitcoin to be able to spin up projects, or just having a Stacks community to build. It probably seems better to have a Stacks community to build outside of School of Bitcoin. Is that agree?
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking.
I guess if someone wants to spin up a City Coin project, that doesn't need to necessarily be through School of Bitcoin.
That's right.
But being in the Stacks community, they could do that. So one of the girls here in our group, she's going to spend, I think, 2 or 4 hours a week or something just purely on Stacks and building Stacks community.
Yep.
She's already put her hand up to do that. So she's diving right into City Coins. Already got an idea about something to build on Stacks.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, in that case, should we kind of look at doing that? I mean, in terms of the curriculum, I haven't had much of a chance to do anything with the curriculum this week. I don't know if did you submit something, Jill? Because I saw on Dework, or was it just a test?
Oh, it was just a test from last week. Yeah, I wasn't sure where we were, whether that was what we want, you know.
Yeah.
Do we take it? Are we all taking it that next stage? I didn't know whether it was just part of that meeting. Like, where are we at? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's I guess that's the question for this. Like, do we sort of focus on this or focus on Stacks Australia for the moment, and kind of put School of Bitcoin on pause until we get this kind of built out? But that being said, we probably still need the bit entry curriculum if we're going to do events, right? We're going to need both. So maybe that can be part of this. So we do the bit entry curriculum as like a on Notion, part of that. Just a thought. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, Lecture and I were just talking. We think that'd be the way to go. Use the Bitcoin community to feed into the Stacks ecosystem, but build out the Stacks community, and the School of Bitcoin will get obviously a feed out, get fed out of the Stacks community as soon as we get some revenue coming in. And then if other projects come along. So with the Stacks Australia one, the idea that they've put to us is to create a stacking pool. I hadn't had a chance this week, but the idea was I think Korea have a stacking pool. From what I gather, you set up the wallet. I think you can contribute your stacks, but then the rewards go off to the Stacks chapter.
Yeah.
So,
I was thinking we put that on a roadmap for the time being, like with actually building that out ourselves. Maybe just do it like sort of traditional setup, the Stacks community, and sort of use the Stacks for building stuff out on Dework, like we were setting up on for the curriculum side of things.
Yep.
But yeah, then it gives us a bit of a boost to just get things off the ground sort of a bit more quickly, I think.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, so let's set up the email with what's it, Louise.
Louise, yeah.
Get that down and then put up to the community what the plan is for how to host the stacking pool. And
yeah. So what I might do this week is I think we can probably do kick off with an event anyway. So I was thinking, even if Jill, if you can't get a space and I can't get a space, we could still coordinate and do something virtually until we do.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think that'd be fun anyway. And Jack, you can present as well if you want to, and Dan as well if you want to present as part of that. But I think if we do that, we can kick that off and then reach those first two targets. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing the screen, am I? This first two targets of a virtual event, which we can make a physical event as well, and onboarding 100 learners. So I think we could probably tick those off. All this stuff I can get up and running, I think, this week, and then we just sort of populate it. I was thinking Gitbook as well for the repo for resources. I think that looks really nice with the School of Bitcoin one. So I think we do the same, but specific for Stacks, and website and Dework setup. So I mean, I can work all those this week, and then we can sort of reconvene next week, figure out a date for when we're going to do the event, and kind of go from there. The other thing, I looked up the to buy domain names. So someone's obviously seen that we got a grant, and they've jumped in within the last week or so and bought stacksaustralia.com and stacks.com.au. I'm like, bastards. So we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna call the website as well.
Oh,
but
wow.
Doesn't matter.
Just put a dash in there.
Or what about an IO?
Or an IO, yeah.
Or an org. Org, ORG.
Yeah.
They just wasted their money. Don't worry about them.
Yeah. I
Use
think
an ORG. If it's still
IOs,
available.
but IOs are sort of more crypto orientated anyway, aren't they? Rather
Yeah.
than, I think maybe the org is a little bit more legacy sort of feel to it, in that it feels
Yeah.
more government sort of centralized, whereas an IO really feels more like, Jacques, what do you think?
Yeah.
Orgio.
Yeah, I think good.
IO.
That work for
Whatever's left, they might have taken them all.
Maybe. That's all right. I mean, I'll spin up a github.io anyway, and yeah, just sort of share all the dates with that. So we'll have to look at creating another Discord community specifically, I think. And I think like doing it this way, like sort of stacks first, it's going to give us a bit of a runway to build out other projects as well. Because I think like Jeremy had some really cool ideas that he wanted to do. I know he's pursuing like an NFT project now, which sounds really cool. Actually, it's actually it's along the lines of like authenticating whether like an NFT project is good or not. He's like building a project for that specifically. So that could be something we build into this like later on. But like gamification stuff, he had some cool ideas. Jacques, I know you had some cool ideas, and Jill obviously. So I reckon if we do the Stacks Australia community, like focus on that first to give us runway, and then yeah, build those projects. Does that sound good with everyone? Does that sound like we're on the right track?
Sounds good for me.
Dan, what do you reckon? Oh, you're muted. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I was going to say I'm more in observe and learn mode than active contribution mode, but it does sound great.
Cool. Well, yeah, I thought. Well,
So just to interrupt, Dan, so the idea with the Stacks Australia grant, we want to stack the stacks. So it's like staking the stacks. The rewards come out in Bitcoin, and the rewards will get to develop projects. So we in Korea, they build out a huge community. From what we've got to do some research on it this week. So they gathered up, 300,000 stacks, and they're just getting these Bitcoin rewards coming off. So, and that's feeding the community. So that's what they've encouraged to do, rather than just getting 6,000 US a month and burning it up on projects. Try and get everyone to be excited and to build out the community and create an ecosystem which will fund itself with Bitcoin forever.
Yeah, they're kind of
They're stacking.
self-fulfilling.
While over there stacking, I don't know how long they stack for before the money runs out, or however it works. I'm not quite sure about the technical side.
Do you know if on Dework if you can actually like pay people in stacks?
You should be.
It's got the Hiro wallet.
It's got a Hiro wallet, so yes, you should be able to.
So I reckon we do that. Like until we figure out the pool situation, I reckon we put up rewards for projects in that specifically.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Get people to sign up. And we'll, instead of signing up with the authentication through Discord, I reckon we do it through Hiro. So anyone who wants to be involved with that project, they just have to have a Hiro wallet.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because then they have to download a Hiro wallet, which makes us helps us achieve our goals.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly right. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is something I'm pretty excited about, was I got in contact with the futurebit. I CC'd you on that email, Gordon.
Yeah, I saw that. It was awesome. I checked it out. I went, this is the go.
The way to go. So basically, what we were talking about was putting up a like a shipping container, maybe up in Agnes Waters somewhere, for learners or for students to come through and learn about Bitcoin mining specifically. And there's a group called futurebit, and they've built out like eco-friendly small miners. They do up to sort of 3 terahash, and they have like eco mode. So you can, I've got a couple here. They're quite fun to play around with, but they're actually a full Bitcoin and Lightning node as well. So, and you can sort of, you can daisy chain them along. So you can have like one is the node and one is like the controller, and daisy chain like a bunch of other ones to it. So we were thinking, instead of like, getting a bunch of S19s or whatever that are like a fortune, for that space specifically, so they can learn about it and set it up and make it eco-friendly, Apollo miners. So getting a bunch of them. So I reached out to them, and so like we got this project, School of Bitcoin, in the works, and we want to set up this space so student runs or learner centric and learner maintained as well. So you have what we're thinking sort of groups of learners coming through to set them up and maintain it, and it's like an ongoing sort of circular or rotating community sort of coming through to maintain the space.
So would you need a good solar system, you think, for that?
Yeah, probably. I reckon Tesla for sure for this management.
And what about for connectivity? Would you recommend consider Blockstream satellite or Starlink?
No, that's the beauty of mining. You can have like a 3G connection if you want. It doesn't require much throughput at all. So that's not a barrier to entry. So I think that what you probably need most is the power. So solar is the way to go for that. But the really cool thing was I reached out to these guys, and they've got a education program and discounts for education specifically. So I reckon that's going to be an awesome project that we can get off the ground. And the cool thing is, like, doing it this way, these are only like, $800 each, US, I think that is. But basically, we can do it incrementally. So we can get a couple, get it set up. All right, get some more. Oh, see you then. And then, build it out. So I reckon it could be a really cool project that we could fund pretty quickly. And I reckon if we get the Stacks community off the ground, that can be like a thing that we can fund, like a philanthropic thing that we can fund out of that. So yeah, I was super excited about that. So I reckon that's something we can get done. That and the Satoshi Mike thing I thought were cool.
I love Satoshi Mike.
Yeah.
I think you
Can I jump in with regards to the Satoshi mites and also the connections that I think we're talking about meetups, but actually I think a lot of our the people maybe that we want to connect with are young learners. They're in schools, and I'm just wondering, I think Jacques, you had down something in the framework, the build, with regards to marketing, how maybe we're going to use a bounty system or a reward system to build out that marketing that actually networks specifically with schools to bridge them onto our, the Satoshi Mite program, so that almost that integrity, and I think we've spoken about this, the respect and the integrity for what we're doing is funneled into the school ecosystem broadly, so that teachers are aware of what we're doing. We're not just alongside a whole range of other pieces of information on the internet, but actually we develop those links with the schools through our credibility and market in a way that is, I suppose, not the hard sell as, core product marketing, but more building those connections. I'm just wondering how we managed to do that. I think that's a very important part of the whole development for the project. Thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking having that space. So like the spaces I've been looking at, obviously for the meetups, but I was also going to set up a coder dojo there specifically around financial literacy. So like what I had running at Rana Park, doing that in the new space. So then you do have sort of young learners coming through there as well.
Yeah, it's something that we had to go through up in Gladstone as well just this week. Do you set up a future school? Do you set up, how do you set these things up so that they can be, inclusive of schools and homeschoolers and who's going to come through? And we pretty much came down to it. I think that it is setting up these learner spaces because they're interesting, they're transitional, they're not stuck in a framework of schools, but how to get the participation with the schools. So that's sort of what we've done here. I guess what we've done here at the Playhouse, we've just got to get the schools interacting more with us, because they won't take the initiative unless you've got a Kieran Nolan there doing that sort of a program at the school and encouraging it. How do you get someone in that school to take it and run with it?
So Gordon, you are so right. Their mindset is not innovative, and it is not expansionary, or it's a very different, narrow-minded, time-poor and exhausted mindset, because that's the nature of the institutions that they're working in. But they've got the distribution that probably we're looking for with regards to wanting that widespread or that broad uptake. So cherry picking off schools is cool. It sort of gives a little sort of adrenaline hit, but actually it depends, if you want to scale this, how you actually develop that network on a broader scale. And I think that's what I'm looking at, is onboarding people at a much higher scale. And that goes back to the marketing. I think that's a whole project in itself, is developing that marketing. Certainly with regards to Australia and education in Australia, I've got a lot of networking opportunities that we could actually connect with if we set it up in a way that, you know, that integrity and trust and so on is ready for that bridge.
Bill, are you thinking like the schools would be implementing programs that the students can fit into, or these are student-led?
So I do think that if we set it up correctly, that we could actually have, for example, I think I've spoken a little bit about this previously, but the way I'd go about maybe to start with would be to tap into the IB schools. So the IB schools, and there's a lot of them here in Australia, they have to run a year 10, which is a 15 to 16 age group, year-long project. So I think to start with, I would be tapping into those schools and saying, at the School of Bitcoin, we can actually support your learners if they want to actually run a year-long project, and we can actually support some of the there's a lot of practice, theory and practice, but we could actually support their theory and practice by building something into the back end of our product, which would give us that integrity. We're not trying to hard sell anything. We're actually supporting the learners in the whole the value system within which, exactly what, you know, we've spoken about in curriculum meetings, the value system of you know, empowering learners to use the technology and to feel that their future financial literacy is being developed by themselves through being curious. So I really think that could be a wonderful inroad, is to use the IB school system. But to get us ready to do that, I think that there's a project involved to be able, I don't think we can just go to those schools and say, hey, come and see what we're doing. I think we actually have to build out a bit of the back end curriculum to meet the needs of the International Baccalaureate program. And I can see such synergy between them. I don't think that it would take too much to actually build that out. It could sit within the framework of the website, but it could certainly sit in at the back end of the GitHub. But I think that's one element. I think there are also other elements, again, Jacques, going back to your question, where we could be very much a direct sort of, just like Khan Academy, teachers will go, okay, let's see what Khan Academy is doing, because it's now it's trusted, it's respected. And I think if you scale us from just saying, oh, well, you know, I went to this great meetup, that's great, but actually scale us to that next level, we can reach a lot more people and we can go globally. And I think that would be an amazing project. Yeah.
I like that thinking. Is there, would there be a way to tailor, or would we tailor the curriculum to IB schools specifically, do you reckon? Or
it wouldn't take much tailoring, Kieran, because they've got key principles that align with our principles. So I know their curriculum is what I do day to day, and have done for many, many years. So there's different kinds of curriculum throughout the world. Everybody's got their sort of different twist and segment to the curriculum. But the IB curriculum is a beautiful one to start with. It actually connects back with a lot of the De Bono work as well, because it encourages them to be curious. It encourages them to think, and that whole process of metacognition that comes to that end result as to thinking upon your thinking. But because they've embedded this compulsory unit within the year 10 curriculum, that the students have to pick a project that they keep at for a whole year, and they actually have to detail how they've developed their support mechanisms. So they could actually write part of their thesis and their paper, because they have to write a paper as well as do the project. They could actually write that, you know, people at the School of Bitcoin enabled them to move through this journey, and they have to move through the journey. They actually have to talk to people. So they could actually reach out to people at the School of Bitcoin, and they could actually get mentors who then comment on their project as they move through, and then they have to piece this together as part of their graduation. Yeah, that's right, the IB. Thanks, Gordon, that's brilliant. So it's a personal project throughout the world. It's not just Australia. And of course, you probably know the International Baccalaureate is a very esteemed program that a lot of those very big schools run. So it's a little sort of opening of a door into a very wide network of people to be able to quickly sell what you're doing. And I love the idea of finding a space on the Gold Coast and opening up a, you know, shop sort of front and actually having people coming through the door. That so totally appeals to me. But I think this way, if you really wanted to get a real scale and traction, building out the back end of the program to connect to that curriculum is probably going to be a very credible way of connecting with thousands and thousands of learners.
Yeah, that's good thinking. Really good thinking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's the way to
Yeah, all right. So,
Looks
what
good,
would be-
because trying to go through and find different like school type systems or education systems that can align with what we're doing. I think that's really critical. That's awesome. Looks great.
Gordon, have you, I don't know whether your kids have gone through the IB system. Do you know anything about that from being a parent?
No, not at all. I don't.
Yeah. It's a different way of learning, sort of like, you know, you get your Montessori kindergartens, and you get Jacques, you probably in the United States, you've probably got a variety of different ways of learning. I know from my knowledge of the States, but IB, again, it's global. You know, they're situated in Switzerland, and we can really tap into their network if we can get it right at the back end. And, you know, I'd be very happy to take on that. Maybe we could put that out as a Dework project to develop that curriculum, so that basically what we're doing and are working with regards to our curriculum program also have that offshoot of being able, through working with our program, to develop that personal project.
Yeah,
and
brilliant.
Then from there we can actually connect maybe with, I'd go via LinkedIn. Electra, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'd probably try through LinkedIn to connect with a network of IB teachers, to draw them to our project through some soft marketing, that this is the way we're actually supporting year 10 projects, and just see how many people we can actually get testing to draw in. And maybe, like Karin's already done with her provocations, maybe some of those provocations can be specifically directed towards that personal project. And once we start that marketing campaign on LinkedIn and start, you know, bringing people into what we're doing, see whether that does work or not, and how it works, and who responds to us. It would be fascinating.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, for you tag people, and it gets their attention.
And I think with LinkedIn you can also do, I think it's called the splash advertising campaign. So it's very specific, and you can filter out on LinkedIn, like Facebook. You know, with LinkedIn, I think they call it their splash marketing campaign.
Yeah.
And so we can actually specifically target. I don't know what the costs are involved, but again, maybe that's part of where the grant money could be. You know, maybe we discuss, you know, how we're sort of breaking down some of the finances, so that we can actually apportion some of that to that project in order to be able to develop attraction of 15, 16-year-olds who are looking at projects. And these projects, like Gordon has said, you know, they can be fashion projects that are building on Web3, but supported through the School of Bitcoin. There's a whole range of things they could do.
Yeah. Brilliant. No, I love that. That's such a good idea, Joe.
It's worth looking into that one.
Yeah.
I ran into a lady this week as well from El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
She's a teacher, so she's on holidays at the moment. So amazing who's coming through, Agnes. And she teaches Australian kids to speak Spanish. They're quite fluent. And in terms, because I said, oh, maybe you could be interested in, Karin was looking for someone to help in translation.
Yeah.
As a little project. But she's also knows quite a few schools and teachers in El Salvador as well, Karin. So sort of a bit of, and she sounded really keen to get on board a bit. So that's to add to what could be done over there.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Let's pick something up for sure.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool. So Jill, what do you reckon's the sort of first steps with doing that then? Like sort of scaffolding out specifically for IB?
Well, if we could maybe scope it up as a project, I think there's a few steps to it. It's sort of, we need to look, I need to go back and tease out some of those values and also look at some of the bits with regards to the directions that the students are given with regards to the project, so that we've got the values, the project, and then our white paper conversations matching up. And I think it's not just that whole idea of financial literacy. We very much need to incorporate Web3. It's going to be a beautiful synergy between what the students, when they get to the IB personal project, they go, I don't know, tell me what to do, because that's how students, most of them work. They're there at school and the school teachers are supposed to tell them. And the whole point about this personal project is they've got to go and find their project. So I'm thinking in my mind, and I'm thinking out loud a little bit, is we would potentially put together some rough projects as to what they could do if they were mentored at the School of Bitcoin. But there would, I think as a group, we'd have to say, okay, this is going to be a project that we develop to target this specific group of students globally. And it's obviously, then we have to have that back end support. Jacques, what are your thoughts when students and teachers come to us and go, yep, fantastic, you've sold this on LinkedIn and our student wants to run through and have the mentors there or have that framework there. Where is it? How quickly, time frame wise, could it happen?
I think we could get something up for this in like a month. I think if we started with a one-to-one comparison, and basically we've run through it roughly together when we were doing the curriculum design.
Yeah.
And even doing it that first pass, it could be way cleaner now that if we were going through we could build out a GitHub repository with the same structure. I mean, essentially I could clean it up with the School of Bitcoin, what we already answered.
Yep.
We can clone that and then we can start changing the values and make them work for the IB program. And that could be a perfect example of what we took the School of Bitcoin, we cloned it, and we adapted it for IB, because then that could be an example. So like the same way we did it for IB, the IB programs, we could do it for IBO, sorry.
IB, that's, yeah.
Okay, then we can also do it for what are the other, like Montessori. Just showing this could be I think that could be a good way to go about it.
So the other organization, Montessori, is sort of that younger element, and certainly, I mean, it doesn't matter, like Karin would say, it doesn't matter what age the kids are, but you may have heard maybe of the Steiner School. Yeah. Okay. So Steiner School, another sort of wonderful group of schools internationally that, again, what we're trying to achieve here is in line with the Steiner School philosophy, whereby the child goes and is curious about the environment, and therefore through asking those questions says, I want to do this project to be able to achieve what I think it might be as an outcome, to be able to enhance my learning, which grows me as a person. So that philosophy, again, totally different to the legacy model of education that we know of, that is standardized testing and can be quite oppressive. And I think from tackling it from those two different angles, Karin, I think we're never going to convert everybody, but actually these systems are already converted systems to essentially connect with the values that Jacques and yourself and myself and Electra and Gordon have already identified within the values of what we're trying to achieve.
100%. I love that. It's really, really good thing. I love what you said about Web3 as well. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this week, there was, so Bitcoin Miami's been insane. I don't know if anyone's been keeping up with that, but I
have been.
Did you see the Web3 actually, I'll bring it up. Because I saw it before they did the presentation on it. My mind was blown. You'll appreciate this as well, Jacques. Where are we? Oh, what's going on? Well, it's us. Gotta press a lot of crap. All right.
Yeah, Jill, there's sort of this fascinating thing going in the world where you've got like the Jack Mallor work and the, you know, Jack Dorsey work and all the old, that's the new guys and all the older Bitcoiners and the work they're doing, but ultimately it gets integrated into mainstream systems.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And we are financial literacy, so we're actually an important element that's missing from much of the education system. So
absolutely, but the work that you've done with the fashion that you put together on that project-based learning is so, I think that is so valuable. That could be that concept could be replicated when students come to do their project. Even the fact that when they're doing those projects, you know, they can develop their tipping service, or, you know, in Bitcoin online, or they can develop payments as creators online. Increasingly, like yesterday I bought a course that I'm going on at the moment, and, you know, the options to be able to pay, there's so many options, and credit card came right down the bottom. I was like, I just want to pay by MasterCard, but I'm so old school, you know, I could have paid by a whole range of Sol Pay or, you know, ETH or whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, so this was it's blown my mind. So basically, Impervious AI is a browser being built on Lightning specifically.
Yep.
And basically, they did a demo of, this is a dock sitting between their nodes, so between their Lightning nodes. So the only two people that know that this communicate end-to-end encryption between the two nodes, they're actually typing to each other. It's the first time this has ever happened on Lightning between, and I think it costs like 11 sats or something to do the whole thing. So they do a doc, and then they actually jump into a video conference across Lightning nodes. So encrypted over the internet across the two Lightning nodes, and then they send he sends them a tip like while they're doing the actual conference. So no Zoom, no third party. This is VoIP happening over Lightning between two Lightning nodes. It's like
amazing.
What? So I've reached out to them immediately to sign us up to see if we can get access.
That's amazing.
Yeah, probably the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. I was like, oh my God. And they kind of they go a bit deeper into what they can actually do. But they're actually integrating IPFS on that as well, which I thought was really interesting. So the interplanetary file system. So I'm guessing that communication, or that live doc, or that Google Doc, called Google Doc clone, is sitting on IPFS. So IPFS sitting on the Lightning node between each other, and then VoIP between each other, like with no middleman. And perfect as well. Like there was no lag or anything. So
wow,
messaging the whole lot. So I think what you do is, like, instead of having this Zoom and paying, like basically I'm paying Zoom, like renting this off Zoom, we'd be paying each other to create a communication portal for this communication now, and then typing as we go. Instead of using Google Docs, we just have our nodes talking to each other. So cool. So I reckon if we can migrate everything to impervious.ai, like ASAP, that'd be awesome. But yeah, it looks like they're I think it's been like 6 months in like development, and they've kind of just launched with their API and stuff. So yeah, definitely watch out for that. So cool stuff. But yeah, anyway, I kind of derailed the conversation from my back to that.
The other thing that I'd love to do as a project behind sort of what we're doing with the School of Bitcoin, excuse me to the gents in the room, but I'd love to do something that is there for young females, empowering female literacy. Electra, what are your thoughts on something like that, sitting there specifically, that we haven't built it into the curriculum yet, but it'd be great to sort of, just like empowering girls with STEM, or, you know, the STEM technology. What do you think?
There definitely do need to be more women. I keep looking at boards of interesting projects, and the only woman is a content marketing manager. Yeah, look, it all helps to you know, grow their confidence. There are women in blockchain groups around, and for a
It's just not
reason.
very visible.
It's
Yeah.
such a weird thing. So like,
So yeah, lending some visibility to it ourselves would be
I think
good,
so.
especially if we're targeting young people. You know, want to get.
it's
I
such
think
a
so,
weird,
yeah.
such a weird dynamic. So like at Barada, we had I had more girls than boys, like in tech classes doing Cisco and at Coder Dojo. So we'd have like these groups of people coming through the school saying, you know, we're doing tech for girls and STEM for girls. I'm like, what? And the the weird thing was,
It's the same at the Digital Playhouse.
They want to hang out with each other.
The girls seem to, the boys, I don't know what they're doing. They're doing boys stuff.
The girls are all over it, and it was so weird.
I'm trying to change that though with gaming, because I think the boys are all gaming.
Oh, I think once they learn, once they play to earn, once they cotton onto that.
Maybe it is an age thing. Maybe it's like once they go to high school that shifts or something. But I found, like, because we had a lot of visitors to the school, a lot of people coming through saying, we're doing STEM for girls, and like the reaction from the girls was, oh, have I been doing something wrong? It was the opposite sort of effect. It was really, really strange. So I think, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's like a societal thing. Like once girls are just like it's, but yeah, I don't know. But I mean,
I haven't quite worked out how maybe we develop that visibility. Maybe it's just by being part of the, you know, the founding team that Electra and I, you know, give a balance to, you know, a visible sort of we're here too sort of thing. But and maybe, like you say, maybe it's not specifically, because then you're sort of saying, well, it's financial literacy for boys and financial literacy for girls, which we don't want to do exactly. But yeah, I think targeting to start with, I think if we were able to scale this massively through school systems that align with our values automatically, I think you're going to find it's an easier win maybe than ones and twos, which is you know, it's a wonderful adrenaline kick to sort of have, you know, 30 people turn up to your workshop every week, but it's, I think, so much more powerful to have the representation of what we're doing through core schools that are already leaders in innovative ways of teaching.
Yeah, for sure. So is there something that we can sort of, like an open framework already that we can kind of build off that you know of for IB, or?
Yeah, I can have a little play, and I could certainly have a little play with something. I don't want to do the whole thing and spend hours and hours and hours without, obviously, I mean, it would be a whole project to actually do, but certainly I can tap out something that would give us an idea for us to work out as to how to move to that next stage, if that sounds reasonable.
Yeah. Well, would that, in terms of like what we already have, like as the template for what we're building, would it be integrated with that or something kind of
separate? That's what I'm thinking. It's a sort of bridging. So if I put something together that sort of shows people who don't understand the IB system what we're trying to do, and people who understand, like sort of bridge between the two groups. For people who don't know IB and for people who don't know the School of Bitcoin, how do the two align? I could do something simple for that for the next time we meet, but then the project would have to be to actually, there would be more involved in that project, because you've got to obviously connect with that whole networking of the schools, and then support it at the back end. These projects, they're not a one-off project where the student says, oh, they've got great information and that's the end of it. They actually need to come back, and they actually need potentially somebody to be a mentor at the back end to tap into. And then when that final paper comes to being developed, we should really be having some resources specifically for development of theory papers that essentially they've got a format that all of the papers follow around the world. And it doesn't matter whether you're building, rebuilding a piano or rebuilding a car, which some of the kids actually do as a year-long project. They get help, but they actually outfit a car, or they revamp an old piano, or they will actually learn some simple electrics or something, and then they will, show lights or their lighting or whatever it is. Doesn't matter what they do, but these projects are significant projects that are practical projects that have a theory paper. And so the theory component, we could actually put in support for them so that they can see that School of Bitcoin is actually help. They can see that nexus, they can see that connection.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, at some point, I think importantly, with the project-based learning in the School of Bitcoin, it goes off to, they can create these sub-DAOs, and that's a whole new concept for funding everything. So it's going to be getting them interested in learning about DAOs and the likes very early. It's pretty cool. That's where I'm seeing is where so much is to be learned.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of I suppose, just looking at the Dework now, like, with what I was saying earlier about sort of focusing on the Stacks Australia now, I suppose in terms of time and stuff, like what do we want to do? I suppose we can kind of try and do both, because they are linked, but like what's your thinking around that, Jill?
Sorry, I didn't really understand the question. So are we talking
So like I was saying, let's focus on sort of Stacks Australia for now, like building that community. But and kind of putting, my thinking was put School of Bitcoin not on hold, but like just on pause for a moment, or sort of get that off the ground, get some income for that, so we can actually make a Dework instance and start spinning stuff up, specifically like for School of Bitcoin as well. But I don't know, is that gonna, because we've got momentum as well. I don't want to kill that. That's the other thing.
Jacques, what are your thoughts?
I feel like I'm coming in while you are all gaining momentum. I mean, from my perspective here, I think my task, regardless, is just to get the responses that we put together into GitHub. And I mean, I think those could be used towards Stacks or towards this IB program. So I'm pretty neutral on that. I think I have enough. I think my marching orders are set here based on what we've already done. But I don't know, like what, I guess, Joe, what's your involvement been with, like for the Stacks side of things?
Involvement as to, sorry, don't.
I guess it sounds, Karin, is it correct that you're asking how should we balance tackling the program while we're also tackling the Stacks?
Yeah.
So I don't really know how much Jill has been involved with that. If she's not too involved with what's going on with Stacks, maybe it makes sense to do the IB, but I'm not.
Focus on it. Yeah, maybe it does. I guess there's a lot of bleed over and sort of creating events and all that sort of stuff. It's all Bitcoin, right? So it doesn't really matter.
I think they're good conversations, because we're at that point where it's growing. Okay, we're talking about scaling. We've still got to build the curriculum out. We've still got to get our funding model sorted. We've got to get some legal things sorted.
Yep.
So we're at that point. I think that's cool. I think that we've obviously got some ideas to go into the scaling pool. And that's, if you're going to scale, well, doing the research on how. And I think that's a great point. And Jill, I mean, that's your expertise.
Yeah.
Is actually your expertise from what I can see is really that connecting with the schools, because you're from that system.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, I'm more, Karin's like does great building stuff. I've got one of the girls here that's willing to jump in and help us build out the Stacks community. I think I need to focus on that.
Yeah.
Myself, you know.
Well,
So picking big things.
I think, yeah. Well, my thinking was, because I'm conscious everyone's put in a lot of work. I'm just thinking in terms of like getting income for rewards to do stuff, so it doesn't sort of fizzle out. You know what I mean? So that's all.
Yeah, I guess with Dan today, I know that we had to start somewhere, and hopefully Dan's inspired by what we're doing and what I'm thinking. That was one of the conversations about the fizzling out of open source projects. Yeah. He really made some good points about that, and so I think probably setting him up for the next time or at our next meeting with Dan is, okay, Dan, how will we structure things out? How to get people incentivized so that we can continue on, because so I think important conversations.
Yeah. Thanks, Gordon. That's good. I'd be really keen. I think I'd be really keen to work on that educational angle. I've got the contacts, I've got the expertise with regards to different curriculums. And I've been doing some work, I think, Karin, I mentioned to you, I've been doing some work with, I do some writing consultancy for a firm in London. They are networked throughout the UK. You know, there's opportunity, I think, to tap into some of that as well. They deliver a program which is actually well-being and positivity, so they've got all of those connections. There could be I could see how maybe I could use some of those contacts to potentially tap in to a Northern Hemisphere for the School of Bitcoin. You know, Jack's in America, we're in Australia, but the School of Bitcoin could really take off globally. I've got some ideas.
Okay, well let's keep the ball rolling then, I suppose. With the IB stuff, like with those projects like the car and that sort of thing, is that like an STL program, or is that is it like they've come up with that on their own? They want to
So for next week's, I'm conscious of time for everybody, but for next week's meeting, I'll actually bring a few photos and I'll just scope out how the kids actually get to doing what they do. But essentially, they're given some ideas and they're told to think really big. And some of them are social projects, so they'll actually go and they'll do, they'll actually be advocates within their community, and they'll actually set something up that's community based. But others will maybe just love cars, and so they'll buy an absolute an old, for example, I've seen an old Jaguar being bought for a few $1,000s, and the dad has helped the son refit an old Jag. And then they actually bring the old Jag to the school for a huge presentation evening. And these practical projects are actually displayed. And the written project has to go beside it. And then the kid actually has to explain exactly what they've done and who's helped them. So that for the schools that actually run these IB programs, it's more than just getting the kid to get a grade. It's exactly what we've been talking about with regards to a journey and a huge development. So I think we could definitely be part of a suite of ideas for projects for schools to feed into kids.
That's awesome. It sounds like Enigma missions that we were doing at school. Would High Tech High be part of that? Are they an IB school? Do you know?
High Tech, say again.
High Tech High over in San Diego.
I don't know, but if they are an IB school, it will be part of their marketing. So they have to obviously pay to run that curriculum. It's a very expensive curriculum. Parents actually have to pay extra for the kids to sit final exams because they get what's called the diploma. And then essentially when it comes to going anywhere in the world to university, their diploma is actually recognised on a different scale to, say, Australia's national ATAR score. So it's within their marketing. A lot of international schools run IB programs. So from our perspective, it's a great way to tap into marketing with regards to interviews, with regards to systems. You know, you're going to be able to tap in. I think you should be able to tap in to a system that's already there.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That's brilliant. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, let's pursue that for sure. If you can give us some direction on a
I will. And essentially I think from the School of Bitcoin, you're not trying to sell them a piece of software. You're not trying to, lobby them for anything. So it actually works, it's a win-win for both situations. We get the scaling and the credibility, and they get the support and mentoring for their year 10 students.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, brilliant. Love it. All right. Well, we'll leave it there then, I suppose. Do we want to do another, like a separate stacks meeting at some point, Gordon and Electro? You're on mute, I think. Hello?
Right? Yeah, I just dropped a message in the chat.
Oh.
And we just, the meetings we've just had on the structure and the likes. I think it'd be best, if we could. Has everyone would everyone have some time now?
Yeah,
Briefly?
sounds good. Yep.
All right.